Alpha males dominate rooms with noise, power displays, loud confidence, and visible control. But Sigma males? They dominate through presence. They don't compete, they disrupt. Quietly, effortlessly, without even trying. And that's the one thing alpha males can't stand. The Sigma doesn't play their game. Yet somehow, he still wins it. The Sigma male doesn't seek validation. He doesn't chase approval, status, or leadership. Yet people naturally gravitate toward him. His power is invisible but undeniable, built on mystery, self-control, and emotional detachment that no alpha can manipulate. While alphas demand respect, Sigmas command it, simply by not needing it. That silent confidence threatens every man who defines himself by hierarchy. Alphas build their image around dominance. Sigmas build theirs around independence. And that difference, that quiet refusal to conform, exposes how fragile the alpha's ego really is. The Sigma doesn't compete to prove he's better. He simply exists beyond the competition. That's what drives the alpha crazy. The realization that the Sigma plays by rules he can't control. This video isn't about conflict, it's about contrast. It's about the subtle psychological edge of the Sigma male, the man who wins not through force, but through frequency. The man whose silence speaks louder than any alpha's roar. If you've ever been underestimated because you didn't need to prove yourself, or if your calm confidence has made loud men uncomfortable, this one's for you. Subscribe to UltraWise for more deep dives into Sigma psychology, the silent dominance, the unspoken strategy, and the inner power that doesn't need validation to lead. And tell me in the comments, do you think quiet confidence is stronger than dominance? Or do both have their place in the modern world, refusing to compete for attention? In a world where everyone is shouting to be seen, the Sigma male wins by staying silent. He doesn't compete for attention, he withdraws from it. While alpha males perform dominance through presence, voice, and visibility, the Sigma operates from the shadows with quiet certainty. He doesn't need the spotlight to validate his worth. He's already proven it to himself, and that's what unsettles the alpha. The Sigma's refusal to engage in the social game that defines the alpha's entire identity. A Sigma understands something most men don't. Attention isn't power, focus is. While others burn energy trying to impress, he conserves his. He observes, calculates, and waits. His restraint gives him a psychological edge because it creates mystery, and mystery draws far more respect than noise ever will. Alphas dominate with force. Sigmas dominate with absence. That's why when the Sigma finally speaks or acts, people listen, not because he demanded it, but because he earned it through control. To the alpha, this kind of power feels like rebellion. It challenges their hierarchy. How can someone who doesn't seek leadership still lead? How can a man who avoids competition still win? The Sigma's quiet nature exposes an uncomfortable truth. The strongest man in the room isn't the loudest. He's the one who doesn't need to prove anything at all. The alpha thrives on reaction, but the Sigma gives him nothing to feed on. No envy, no challenge, no validation, just silence and certainty. What makes this even more powerful is that the Sigma's detachment isn't arrogance, it's precision. He knows that attention is currency and he spends it wisely. He doesn't chase people, he attracts them. His lack of interest becomes magnetism. His stillness becomes dominance. And the alpha who lives for recognition can't understand why the crowd that once admired him now looks toward the man standing quietly in the corner. For the Sigma, this isn't strategy, it's identity. He's not avoiding competition to appear superior, he simply doesn't find meaning in it. His validation comes from mastery, not visibility. While others perform power, he embodies it. Because when you no longer need attention to feel significant, You don't just walk differently. You own the ground everyone else is fighting for. Emotional detachment as power. The Sigma male's greatest strength isn't physical dominance or social influence. It's emotional control. While alpha males feed on energy, reaction, and external validation, the Sigma remains untouchable because he refuses to give his emotions away cheaply. He's mastered the art of emotional detachment, not as apathy, but as discipline. It's what keeps him calm in chaos, unreadable under pressure, and immune to manipulation. And that unshakable composure is what drives the alpha insane. Because you can't intimidate a man who feels nothing you can use against him. In every social hierarchy, emotion is the weapon. Pride, anger, insecurity, the tools that others use to gain leverage. But the Sigma has turned emotion into armor. He's trained himself to respond instead of react, to observe instead of absorb. He knows that losing control gives others power, so he never lets them see what he values most. When others shout, he watches. When they provoke, he pauses. When they play emotional chess, he's already 10 moves ahead. Because he's not playing with ego, he's playing with awareness. To the alpha, this restraint feels like defiance. They thrive on emotional exchange, dominance through reaction. But the Sigma gives them silence, and that silence breaks their rhythm. His lack of response forces others to confront their own insecurities. It's unsettling to face someone who doesn't flinch, doesn't explain, doesn't need to win, because it exposes how much everyone else does. Yet make no mistake, this detachment doesn't mean the Sigma is cold. He feels deeply. He just channels those emotions inward, turning them into focus. He doesn't waste energy proving, arguing, or correcting. Instead, he refines his craft, strengthens his discipline, and lets his results speak louder than pride ever could. Emotional detachment gives him precision, the ability to think clearly when everyone else is blinded by ego. That's why the Sigma's presence feels powerful, not because he projects emotion, but because he contains it. His silence radiates strength. His calm unsettles chaos, and his restraint, mistaken for distance, is actually mastery. Because real power isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself so completely that nothing external can pull you off balance. The Sigma doesn't suppress emotion. He commands it. And that's the difference between force and control. Dominance without display. True dominance doesn't roar, it resonates. The Sigma male doesn't need to flex his strength, raise his voice, or demand submission to command a room. His presence alone speaks louder than any declaration. While alpha males rely on visibility and recognition to feel powerful, the Sigma's influence moves in silence, unseen but unmistakably felt. He embodies dominance without ever having to display it. That's what disturbs the hierarchy. He redefines power by removing the performance from it. When a Sigma walks into a room, he doesn't chase attention that naturally orbits around him. His confidence is understated, his movements deliberate, his eyes steady, and that quiet assurance disarms people. He doesn't compete with loud energy, he neutralizes it. The alpha, used to commanding respect through force, suddenly feels his own volume echo back as insecurity. Because the Sigma doesn't try to dominate others, he simply dominates himself. His calm is control, his silence is strategy, and his independence is command. What most don't understand is that the Sigma's strength was forged in solitude. He learned early that validation fades, and that the need to be seen is the quickest way to lose your power, so he built his dominance from the inside out, rooted in awareness, not approval. When he speaks, people listen not because he demands it, but because his words are scarce and weighted. When he acts, it's never impulsive, it's precise, intentional. almost surgical. Every gesture communicates discipline. Every pause reminds others that he doesn't need to prove anything. This invisible dominance infuriates alphas because it can't be challenged. You can't overpower what won't engage. You can't intimidate someone who's already detached from the game. The Sigma's strength comes from refusal. Refusal to compete, to justify, to play by rules built for weaker minds. His power is quiet, but it shifts dynamics wherever he goes. In truth, the Sigma's dominance isn't about control over others. It's about mastery of self. He doesn't climb the hierarchy, he steps outside it. And in doing so, he becomes the one everyone unconsciously measures themselves against. Because when power doesn't need to announce itself, it becomes undeniable. The Sigma's silence, restraint, and confidence create a gravitational pull, one that even the loudest alpha can't resist orbiting. Authenticity over approval. The Sigma male's power begins the moment he stops caring who understands him. While most people, especially alphas, build their identity around how others see them, the Sigma builds his around what he knows to be true within himself. He doesn't tailor his personality to fit a room, a group, or a trend. He walks in aligned with his own code, and that quiet authenticity unsettles everyone who still depends on external validation. Alphas thrive on approval. Sigmas thrive on authenticity. It's the difference between performing confidence and embodying it. The Sigma learned long ago that chasing validation is a losing game. The moment you bend to be accepted, you forfeit your power. So he chose the harder path, self-approval. He doesn't need applause, likes, or recognition to confirm his worth. His choices, his discipline, his solitude, they're all acts of internal loyalty. He knows that truth without popularity is still truth, and popularity without truth is just noise. That mindset makes him immune to manipulation, because you can't control someone who no longer fears disapproval. To the alpha, who feeds on admiration, this detachment feels like rebellion. The Sigma's refusal to conform threatens the system that thrives on hierarchy and validation. He doesn't flatter to rise. He doesn't compromise to belong. And that makes him dangerous, because he shows others what self-respect looks like when it's not for sale. His mere existence exposes how dependent most people are on being liked, noticed, or needed. The Sigma's authenticity is quiet but magnetic. It attracts, not because it tries to, but because it radiates honesty. He says what others think but are too afraid to voice. He lives in alignment with his values even when it costs him approval. Especially when it costs him approval. That's why people trust him instinctively. His energy carries no agenda. And in a world built on performance, that kind of realness feels revolutionary. When everyone else seeks acceptance, the Sigma seeks alignment. When others fear rejection, he fears self-betrayal. His authenticity isn't an act of pride, it's an act of freedom. Because once you stop needing people to clap for you, you're finally free to do what's real. And that's why alphas envy him most. They may lead crowds, but the Sigma leads himself. Strategic silence in social dynamics. Silence, for the Sigma male, is not emptiness, it's a weapon. While others rush to fill every pause with noise, opinions, or ego, the Sigma understands that silence reveals far more than words ever can. In social settings, he becomes the still point in a room full of motion. People talk to prove they exist. He listens to understand the field. And that unnerves everyone, especially the alpha, who depends on attention to feel significant, because silence, in the hands of the Sigma, becomes dominance in disguise. Every moment he stays quiet, he's gathering data. The tone shifts, micro-expressions surface, hidden intentions expose themselves, and the Sigma absorbs it all. He's not absent from the conversation. He's studying it, mapping the invisible power dynamics no one else notices. When he finally speaks, it's with surgical precision. One sentence cuts through the noise and redirects the entire discussion. That's the essence of his strategic silence. It isn't passivity, it's positioning. To others, especially those who seek validation through dominance, the Sigma's silence feels like resistance, even disrespect. But what they don't realize is that he's conserving energy. He doesn't waste words to prove intelligence or win approval. His restraint is confidence, not hesitation. And the less he speaks, the more his presence grows. People start watching him, wondering what he's thinking. The alpha, who's used to controlling attention, suddenly finds himself performing for the one person who won't react. The Sigma knows that silence is not the absence of communication, it's control of it. He uses it to observe patterns, to diffuse drama, to dismantle manipulation without confrontation. Silence creates tension. Tension exposes truth. It's how he identifies who thrives on chaos and who's grounded in authenticity. Every pause becomes a mirror, showing people their own insecurities in the space he refuses to fill. That's why his silence isn't weakness, it's mastery. It keeps him unpredictable, unreadable, untouchable, and it forces others to reveal themselves while he remains composed. The Sigma's strategic silence shifts the balance of every interaction, because when you no longer need to speak to prove your worth, your very stillness becomes a statement. And in a world that confuses noise with power, stillness is the ultimate dominance. The calm that exposes insecurity. The Sigma male's calmness isn't just composure, it's a psychological mirror. While others seek control through dominance, volume, or emotion, the Sigma masters it through stillness. His calm unsettles people because it holds no cracks to grab onto. You can't provoke what doesn't react, can't manipulate what doesn't flinch. And that silence, that unshakable serenity, exposes the instability in everyone else, especially in those who rely on chaos to feel in charge. When tension rises in a room, most people look for noise, a debate, an argument, an emotional cue to guide them. But the Sigma stands grounded, eyes steady, expression unreadable. His calm forces others to face their own inner storms. They start fidgeting, explaining, overreacting, trying to fill the void he refuses to fill. Because deep down, people fear what they can't emotionally influence. The Sigma's calm isn't detachment. It's control, disguised as peace. Alphas who thrive on visible dominance find this quiet power infuriating. Their strength depends on response. They need someone to push back, to prove their superiority. But when the Sigma doesn't play, their confidence starts to crack. They sense that his calm isn't submission, it's evaluation. He's watching, measuring, letting their emotions reveal more than their words ever could. In that silence, every insecurity surfaces. The louder they speak, the weaker they look. The Sigma's calm is not just emotional intelligence, it's strategy. He uses it to command respect without effort, to turn tension into leverage. In moments when others explode or panic, he's already 3 moves ahead, analyzing patterns. People mistake his serenity for apathy, not realizing it's the ultimate form of strength, discipline under fire. That's why his calm disarms manipulators and exposes pretenders. It shows who's genuinely in control and who's pretending to be. And here's the paradox. The calmer he gets, the more unstable others become. His peace shines a light on their inner chaos. His silence reminds them how loud their insecurities truly are. In a world addicted to reaction, the Sigma's stillness is rebellion, a quiet declaration that he cannot be shaken, baited, or controlled. His calm doesn't just protect him, it reveals everyone else. Freedom from group hierarchies. For the Sigma male, freedom isn't just physical independence, it's psychological sovereignty. He moves through the world unbothered by ranks, titles, or social ladders that others obsess over, while alphas compete for the top and betas settle for following. The Sigma simply opts out of the system. He doesn't need validation from a group to confirm his worth or a hierarchy to give him direction. That's what makes him unpredictable and deeply threatening to those who rely on the structure he ignores. In every room, people unconsciously perform their roles: leaders, followers, rebels, seeking approval from the very authority they claim to reject. But the Sigma stands apart. He doesn't need to dominate or be dominated. He operates by his own internal compass. His detachment from group politics isn't arrogance, it's efficiency. The less he invests in approval, the more energy he keeps for his purpose. That detachment becomes a kind of quiet rebellion, one that dismantles the hierarchy without ever attacking it. Alphas can't stand this kind of freedom because it breaks their ecosystem. Their influence depends on others caring about their status, needing their approval, fearing their disapproval. But when a Sigma enters the scene and doesn't play by those rules, the power balance shifts. He doesn't challenge the Alpha directly, he simply renders him irrelevant. Because the moment you stop competing for dominance, you become uncontrollable. This independence comes from deep observation. The Sigma has seen how people trade authenticity for acceptance, how they betray themselves to climb invisible ladders. He refuses to participate in that emotional economy. His power comes from being self-led, not group-fed. That's why people either admire him or feel threatened by him. He represents what they secretly crave but can't achieve: true autonomy. Freedom from hierarchy means the Sigma's validation comes from internal alignment, not external praise. He can walk away from anyone, any circle, any system, not because he doesn't care, but because his peace is worth more than belonging. He leads without leading, influences without trying, and earns respect without demanding it. That's the paradox of the Sigma male. By rejecting the hierarchy, he transcends it. The Sigma say it, and in a world built on control, the man who can't be controlled becomes the most powerful of all, winning without playing the game. The Sigma male's greatest advantage isn't strength, charm, or dominance. It's his refusal to play by rules he didn't write. While everyone else scrambles for approval, status, and validation, the Sigma quietly builds his own lane. He doesn't argue for his place in the world, he creates it. And that's why he wins, not by competing harder, but by stepping outside the competition altogether. His life becomes a silent rebellion against systems designed to measure worth through conformity. Most people are trapped in invisible games. Who's smarter, richer, louder, or more liked? They chase recognition, comparing progress through external eyes. The Sigma observes this frenzy and smiles, because he knows the game itself is the trap. The moment you start seeking validation, you give away control. So he withdraws his energy from battles that only feed egos and reinvests it into mastery, skills, knowledge, discipline, the things that can't be taken or faked. That's where his quiet victories come from. He doesn't need applause to feel successful. His satisfaction comes from knowing he did something on his terms. To outsiders, it looks like luck or mystery. How does he win when he doesn't even seem to try? But that's the paradox. Detachment amplifies effectiveness. Because he isn't distracted by recognition, he focuses entirely on results. And while others waste energy managing impressions, the Sigma channels his into building something real. Even in relationships and social dynamics, he wins by non-participation. Manipulators, attention seekers, and narcissists can't trap someone who refuses to react. They play emotional chess. He walks away from the board. His silence becomes strategy, his absence the ultimate move. Over time, people realize he was never trying to beat them. He was playing an entirely different game, one based on freedom, not control. The Sigma's version of victory is simple yet profound: peace, autonomy, and alignment with his values. No trophy, no spotlight, just the quiet confidence of someone who doesn't need either. That's why those stuck in the hierarchy can't understand him. He wins not because he outplays them, but because he's free from needing to. And in a world addicted to noise, competition, and attention, nothing is more powerful than the man who walks away and still ends up ahead. In the end, the Sigma male doesn't win because he's louder, richer, or more dominant. He wins because he's free. He plays life like chess, while everyone else fights over checkers. His silence isn't weakness, it's a weapon. His detachment isn't distance, it's focus. While others chase validation, he chases truth. And in that truth, he finds something no one can take from him: peace, clarity, and self-mastery. So if you've ever felt like you don't fit into the hierarchy, maybe you were never meant to. Maybe your strength lies in walking your own path, trusting your instincts, and building power quietly. The Sigma path isn't easy, but it's real. And once you taste that freedom, there's no going back. If this message resonates with you, remember, you're not alone in thinking differently. You're part of a rare breed that doesn't need to prove, only to be. Don't forget to subscribe to UltraWise for more deep, thought-provoking insights into Sigma psychology and self-mastery. Drop a comment below. Do you think real power comes from control or from walking away?